Everywhere you look, people chase moments of pleasure as if these fleeting sparks were the key to a meaningful life. They pursue the next dopamine hit, the next distraction, the next quick solution that promises happiness but delivers emptiness. Viktor Frankl dedicated much of his work to dismantling this illusion, showing that the greatest mistake we make when searching for meaning is confusing temporary satisfaction with purposeful living. Pleasure can entertain, but it cannot sustain. And the more we pursue it as our main goal, the more we drift away from what truly fills the human spirit. If messages like this resonate with you, and if you're committed to improving your life with deep, transformative ideas, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. Your growth journey deserves consistent nourishment. Frankl observed that people often treat life as a puzzle with a missing piece, believing that once they obtain that one thing, success, love, money, recognition, they will finally feel whole. But this approach leads to frustration because meaning is not something we extract from life. Meaning is something we contribute to it. This shift is the foundation of everything that follows. Instead of asking, "What can the world give me?" Frankl invites us to ask, "What can I give the world through my choices and my character?" And if you find this perspective enlightening, don't forget to subscribe. This channel exists to bring you exactly the kind of content that challenges the mind and elevates the soul. A powerful insight emerges. Meaning is found not in the pursuit of pleasure, but in the pursuit of responsibility. When a person takes responsibility for their actions, values, relationships, and direction, they break free from the endless loop of chasing short-term satisfaction. A life guided by responsibility gains depth. It becomes rooted, not drifting. It becomes purposeful, not impulsive. And with purpose comes resilience. If this message is helping you reflect, remember, subscribing ensures you never miss the next step in your personal transformation. Imagine a boat without a compass. It might drift into calm waters for a moment, but eventually the waves will pull it into chaos. This is what the pleasure-driven life looks like. Now imagine the same boat with a clear direction. The waves don't disappear, but the captain knows where he's going, and that alone changes everything. Direction reshapes experience. Meaning transforms suffering into endurance, and work into fulfillment. A practical exercise illuminates this principle. List 3 areas of your life where you currently seek comfort instead of growth. Then rewrite each one as a responsibility. If you scroll endlessly through your phone, the responsibility might be protect my attention. If you avoid difficult conversations, the responsibility might be strengthen my relationships through honesty. If you chase distractions to avoid your thoughts, the responsibility might be face myself with courage. This shift unclogs the mental channels where meaning flows. Understanding this principle is essential before exploring deeper layers of Frankl's philosophy. Meaning is not passive. It is not delivered to you. It is built through deliberate awareness and intentional action. And this foundation prepares us to take the next step, where the concept of happiness itself is redefined in a way many people never consider. If you want to keep diving deeper into ideas that reshape your inner world and give you real tools for growth, hit the subscribe button now and join a community committed to living with purpose, not just pleasure. One of Viktor Frankl's most revolutionary ideas is that happiness cannot be pursued directly. It is not a trophy. It is a byproduct of living in alignment with your values. When we chase happiness for its own sake, we trap ourselves in a paradox. The more we demand it, the farther it escapes us. This is why so many people feel chronically dissatisfied even when they achieve what they thought would fulfill them. Frankl called this the existential vacuum, a hollow feeling that grows in modern society, especially when distractions are abundant and introspection is rare. The more people try to fill their inner void with external pleasures, the more disconnected they become from their deepest identity. A person can binge entertainment, relationships, food, or endless self-improvement content, yet still feel empty, because clarity, not consumption, is what builds meaning. The antidote is what Frankl described as self-transcendence, the ability to rise above the self by devoting attention, energy, and intention towards something greater. This might be a mission, a responsibility, a relationship, a craft, or a cause. Self-transcendence acts like an internal compass guiding you beyond momentary impulses toward actions that enrich your character. It anchors your life in principles that remain steady even when circumstances shift. Consider a simple analogy. Imagine a garden. If you plant seeds only to harvest them instantly, nothing grows. But if you tend to them, not because you are desperate for the final flower, but because nurturing them is meaningful, you eventually gain both the flower and the fulfillment. Meaning works the same way. You cultivate it through devotion, not demand. A practical exercise reveals its power. Ask yourself, what is one commitment I can make that extends beyond myself? It might be mentoring someone, mastering a creative skill, contributing to your community, or repairing a relationship you've neglected. The moment you anchor your energy in something larger than your own impulses, your emotional landscape begins to change. Stability replaces desperation. Purpose replaces confusion. Frankl believed that humans are driven not by the pursuit of pleasure, but by the pursuit of meaning. And when meaning is absent, suffering becomes unbearable. But when meaning is present, even difficulty becomes manageable. This is the foundation for psychological resilience. Understanding this prepares us to explore a deeper layer, the inevitable suffering that life brings, and how the search for meaning transforms that suffering from a destructive force into a constructive one. Suffering is not a detour in the human journey. It is part of the terrain. Viktor Frankl observed this during his time in concentration camps, where he realized that people who survived spiritually were not the strongest in body, but the strongest in meaning. Those who could connect their pain to a purpose found a way to rise above circumstances that stripped them of everything else. This insight shifted psychology forever. Your relationship with suffering determines your relationship with life itself. Many people try to avoid discomfort at all costs. They escape into distractions, numb their feelings, or manufacture happiness to disguise insecurity. But avoidance only intensifies suffering because it removes the possibility of transformation. What you refuse to confront controls you. What you face consciously can shape you. Meaning turns suffering into a raw material for growth. Frankl outlined 3 primary pathways to meaning: through work, through love, and through suffering. The third path, often ignored, is the one most capable of redefining your life. When suffering is met with courage, responsibility, and curiosity, it becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant. It shows you what matters, what doesn't, and who you can become on the other side. Imagine metal being placed into fire. The flames are destructive to anything fragile, but they refine anything strong. Humans are similar. Without challenge, the inner structure of a person remains untested. But when suffering is given purpose, when it becomes an act of endurance for something meaningful, it strengthens identity. A practical exercise deepens this. Think of a difficulty you are currently experiencing. Instead of asking, "How do I escape this pain?" ask, "What is this pain demanding from me? What quality is it asking me to grow?" The answer might be discipline, patience, courage, humility, or forgiveness. Turning suffering into a teacher shifts your emotional posture from victimhood to authorship. Frankl suggested that even when we cannot change our circumstances, we can always choose our attitude. This choice is the final human freedom. It grants us the ability to respond to life rather than merely react to it. When you exercise this freedom, suffering becomes a source of inner strength rather than internal collapse. With this understanding in place, we can now move into the next dimension of Frankl's philosophy: how to construct a meaningful life through daily decisions, habits, and commitments that align your existence with purpose rather than impulses. Building a meaningful life is not a mystical quest reserved for philosophers. It is a practical daily construction shaped by choices that align your actions with your values. Viktor Frankl emphasized that meaning is created moment by moment through responsibility, attitude, and intention. This means your life is not defined by one grand decision, but by thousands of small ones that accumulate into identity. When these daily decisions reflect your deeper purpose, your life becomes coherent instead of chaotic. The first step in constructing meaning is to clarify what you stand for. Many people drift not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they lack clarity. They wake up reacting instead of directing. A useful exercise is to write down 3 values that matter most to you. These values might be courage, integrity, compassion, growth, discipline, or service. Then examine your behavior across a typical day. Where do your habits support those values? Where do they contradict them? This awareness flips the inner switch from automatic living to intentional living. The second step is choosing commitments that express those values. Commitment is the backbone of a meaningful existence. A person who commits to mastering a craft, nurturing a relationship, or contributing to a cause experiences fulfillment because their actions accumulate towards something larger than themselves. Commitment gives structure to energy. Without it, motivation dissolves into impulses. With it, motivation solidifies into progress. The third step is arranging your environment to support meaning. Your surroundings shape your behavior more than your willpower does. If you want to pursue meaningful work, create a space that invites focus. If you want to strengthen relationships, create routines that foster connection. If you want to live with integrity, surround yourself with people who challenge you to stay aligned with your principles. Environmental design turns meaning into a lifestyle rather than an occasional thought. The fourth step is practicing attention. Meaning hides in the present moment, not in the imagined future. Many people overlook the significance of small tasks because they are distracted by fantasies of the big moment. But Frankl taught that meaning emerges precisely in those small moments, helping someone, doing your job well, listening deeply, acting responsibly. Training your attention to stay present allows purpose to take root. A final step is allowing meaning to evolve. You are not meant to stay fixed. Meaning grows as you grow. What mattered at 20 might not be what matters at 40. This is not inconsistency, it is maturity. The more honestly you examine your experiences, the more accurately you can shape your direction. With these pillars, values, commitments, environment, attention, and growth, you assemble a life that reflects your essence rather than external pressures. Now that the groundwork for meaning is established, we can explore a deeper challenge: how modern society's obsession with comfort and convenience undermines this construction. Modern society conditions people to believe that comfort is the ultimate achievement. Everything is instant, simplified, optimized for convenience. But comfort, when pursued as a lifestyle, erodes the very qualities required for meaning. The more comfortable life becomes, the weaker our tolerance for discomfort grows. And since meaning requires responsibility, effort, and resilience, the comfort-obsessed mindset becomes a direct obstacle to fulfillment.
One of Frankl's most important psychological observations is that humans require tension, not overwhelming stress, but meaningful tension that pulls them toward a purpose. Without this inner stretch, people fall into apathy. Imagine a bow and arrow. If the string is never pulled, nothing moves. Potential stays potential. A person who constantly avoids tension never activates their deeper strengths. Comfort also encourages passivity. Instead of creating, people consume. Instead of engaging, they escape. Instead of asking deep questions, they settle for shallow entertainment. But when the mind is fed only with distraction, it never develops the muscles required for meaning, reflection, discipline, purpose, and intentionality. Consumption simulates satisfaction, but delivers nothing lasting. A powerful example is the gym. People who exercise understand that resistance builds strength. No one expects muscles to grow without challenge. Yet the same logic applies to the mind and spirit. Emotional resilience, patience, discipline, and clarity develop only through voluntary engagement with challenge. Comfort is not the enemy, but dependence on comfort is. This dependence explains why many people feel lost. They mistake discomfort for failure instead of growth. They interpret boredom as a sign that life is meaningless rather than a signal to seek deeper engagement. They avoid responsibility because it demands sacrifice. But without responsibility, life becomes weightless, and weightlessness feels like emptiness. A practical exercise disrupts this pattern. Choose one meaningful discomfort to embrace daily. It might be waking up early, exercising, journaling, studying deeply, practicing a skill, or initiating difficult conversations. This intentional discomfort activates purpose. It reconditions the mind to associate growth with challenge instead of avoidance. Comfort also narrows perspective. When everything is easy, gratitude fades. Without contrast, appreciation becomes impossible. Meaning requires awareness of value, and value becomes visible only when experienced alongside its opposite: effort, risk, and even struggle. Life without contrast becomes flat. Comfort without discomfort becomes invisible. Frankl believed that the human spirit thrives when it has something to strive for. Meaning gives direction, but challenge provides the movement. When comfort dominates life, movement stops. Understanding comfort's seductive trap prepares us for an even deeper exploration: how the search for meaning becomes corrupted when people chase identity, validation, and recognition instead of purpose.
In the search for meaning, many people fall into a subtle trap. They seek identity rather than purpose. Identity is how you want to be seen. Purpose is how you choose to live. When identity becomes the focus, the pursuit of meaning becomes distorted by ego, comparison, and social validation. People begin crafting a version of themselves they hope the world will approve of, rather than cultivating the version that aligns with their deepest truth. Frankl warned that meaning cannot emerge from narcissism, because meaning requires self-transcendence. When everything becomes about your image, you disconnect from the very experiences that generate purpose. You start choosing what looks meaningful instead of what is meaningful. This leads to burnout, frustration, and emotional instability, because living for external validation is a foundation too fragile to support the weight of a human life. The identity trap is especially visible today. People curate their lives on social media, seeking applause for work they haven't done or values they haven't lived. They chase titles, aesthetics, and labels: entrepreneur, artist, seeker, warrior, healer, hoping the identity alone will provide fulfillment. But identity without action is hollow. Meaning is built from contribution, not performance. Another danger of identity seeking is comparison. When you measure your life against others, you abandon your unique responsibility. Meaning is highly individual. What gives your life purpose might be irrelevant to someone else. Comparison destroys authenticity and breeds insecurity, making you chase goals that don't belong to you.
A practical way to escape this trap is to shift the question from who do I want to appear to be to what do I want to build, heal, serve, or create. Purpose moves outward. Identity moves inward. Purpose leads to engagement. Identity leads to stagnation. Another exercise clarifies this distinction. List 3 things you admire in people. Then ask yourself whether you admire the appearance of those qualities or the behaviors that create them. Do you admire someone because they look confident or because they consistently act with courage? Because they seem disciplined or because they follow through on their commitments? Noticing the difference exposes where your motives drift toward ego rather than meaning. Identity seeking also creates pressure to maintain an image. This pressure drains mental energy and replaces authenticity with performance. Frankl believed that meaning requires honesty. You cannot construct a purposeful life while pretending to be someone you are not. When you abandon identity seeking and embrace purpose-driven action, your sense of worth becomes grounded instead of fragile. Understanding the identity trap opens the path to the next evolution of meaning. How to align your inner world, your beliefs, mindset, habits, and emotional patterns with your outer actions so that your life becomes unified instead of divided. A meaningful life requires unity between your inner world and your outer actions. When your beliefs, intentions, emotions, and habits align with the way you behave, you create a stable psychological structure. But when these elements contradict one another, you experience what psychologists call internal fragmentation. Viktor Frankl believed that meaning flourishes only when a person lives in alignment, when thoughts, values, and actions support the same direction. Without this unity, purpose becomes impossible to sustain. Many people suffer not because their lives are difficult, but because they live divided between who they are and who they pretend to be. This internal division creates tension that feels like anxiety, emptiness, or confusion. A person might deeply value discipline, but live in procrastination. They might value honesty, but avoid difficult truths. They might desire growth, but cling to comfort. These contradictions weaken identity and sabotage purpose. The first form of alignment is cognitive alignment, ensuring your beliefs match reality rather than wishful thinking. If you believe success should be effortless, discomfort feels like failure. If you believe meaning should feel good all the time, difficulty feels like misdirection. Replacing false beliefs with truthful ones strengthens resilience. Frankl taught that perspective is a form of freedom, and freedom grows when it is grounded in truth. The second form is emotional alignment, understanding your emotions without being controlled by them. People often fight their feelings or hide from them, but suppression disconnects you from yourself. Meaning requires self-awareness, and self-awareness begins with honesty about what you feel: fear, hope, anger, desire, sadness, or excitement. Emotions become guidance when acknowledged and destructive when denied. The third form is behavioral alignment, acting consistently with your values. Many people know what they should do, but fail to act because comfort interferes. Behavior is the real expression of meaning. You cannot value growth while choosing stagnation. You cannot value integrity while choosing convenience. Every meaningful life is built on behavioral consistency. A helpful exercise is alignment mapping. Draw 3 columns: beliefs, emotions, and actions. Write what you believe about your life, what you often feel, and how you usually behave. Then circle the contradictions. These contradictions show where meaning leaks. Aligning these areas not only builds purpose, but also reduces internal conflict, creating mental clarity and emotional strength. The final form is habit alignment. structuring your daily routines so they support your purpose rather than undermine it. Habits are the machinery of meaning. Without them, purpose remains an idea. Small habits, reading, journaling, exercising, planning, reflecting, become the soil where purpose grows. When your inner and outer worlds match, your life begins to move in one direction rather than many. This alignment prepares you for a deeper realization. Meaning is not only built internally, it is reinforced and expanded through the quality of your relationships.
Viktor Frankl believed that love is one of the highest pathways to meaning, not the romanticized love portrayed in movies, but the profound recognition of another person's essence. Love, in Frankl's view, is the act of seeing the potential, beauty, and depth within another human being, often before they see it themselves. This ability to see and affirm the inner world of another person generates meaning that cannot be found through solitary achievement. Human beings are relational by nature. Even the most independent person thrives when connected to others in a way that supports growth and authenticity. When relationships are shallow, performative, or transactional, life loses a core pillar of meaning. But when relationships encourage responsibility, honesty, courage, and vulnerability, they become powerful sources of purpose. Relationships offer meaning through contribution. When you show up for others, emotionally, intellectually, or practically, you experience the impact of your existence. Helping someone in a moment of doubt, supporting a loved one's dream, mentoring a younger person, or simply listening deeply creates an imprint on another life. This imprint becomes a source of fulfillment that pleasure can never replicate. Relationships also act as mirrors. They reflect your strengths, weaknesses, triggers, wounds, and possibilities. A partner, friend, or mentor can reveal blind spots you cannot see alone. These reflections are uncomfortable, but essential. They help you grow, refine your character, and understand your patterns. A practical exercise for relational meaning is identifying 3 people who elevate your life and 3 habits that damage your relationships. Strengthen the connections that bring purpose and repair or release the dynamics that harm it. Meaning grows when relationships grow. Neglect and avoidance destroy depth. Frankl emphasized that love reveals the essence of another person. When you truly care about someone, you don't see who they are today, you see who they can become. This perspective strengthens both people. Love challenges you to rise, to act responsibly, and to become worthy of another person's trust. It pushes you beyond self-centered impulses and anchors you in commitment. At its highest level, relational meaning is the act of giving yourself to something greater than your ego. It might be a family, a friendship, a community, or even a mission shared with others. This shared meaning multiplies purpose. It transforms loneliness into belonging and direction into destiny. Once relationships reinforce your search for purpose, a final dimension remains. Using your unique gifts, experiences, and strengths to create something meaningful in the world. The ultimate expression of meaning is contribution, the act of leaving the world better than you found it. Viktor Frankl taught that every individual has a unique mission, something only they can accomplish because of their specific combination of strengths, wounds, personality, and experiences. Meaning reaches its highest form when you use these qualities to create value beyond yourself. Contribution does not require global influence or dramatic achievements. It begins in your immediate environment, your family, your work, your community, your creative pursuits. Purpose grows when you take what you have and offer it where it is needed.
a teacher who inspires curiosity, a parent who nurtures resilience, a worker who brings integrity, an artist who expresses truth. Each contributes in a way that shapes the world quietly but powerfully. To discover your area of contribution, examine 3 elements: what you are naturally good at, what energizes you, and what problems you feel compelled to address. Where these 3 elements overlap, contribution emerges. This intersection becomes a personal mission that gives direction to your actions and significance to your struggles. A meaningful contribution requires courage. Many people never share their gifts because they fear judgment, failure, or imperfection. But Frankl taught that meaning is not found in the guarantee of success, but in the willingness to act. When you contribute despite uncertainty, you step into the fullness of your human potential. Failure becomes feedback, not identity. Contribution also transforms suffering into service. The challenges you have endured often contain lessons that others desperately need. When you share what you have learned, your suffering becomes meaningful because it helps someone else navigate their own. Nothing is wasted when it is transformed into wisdom. A powerful exercise is to write a legacy sentence. In one sentence, describe the impact you want to make. This sentence becomes a compass. It guides your decisions, your habits, and your relationships. It clarifies what deserves your time and what doesn't. When your actions align with your legacy sentence, every day becomes purposeful. Contribution creates fulfillment because it connects you to something larger than your lifespan. Human beings are not satisfied by comfort or accomplishment alone. They crave significance. They want to know their life mattered, that their presence made a difference. Contribution answers this desire by turning your existence into a gift. By integrating purpose, challenge, alignment, relationships, and contribution, you create a life that is not only meaningful, but unshakable. Meaning becomes your anchor, your compass, and your strength. It transforms how you suffer, how you grow, how you love, and how you live.